Hey guys, I'm back with another video today. This video is about a book review about Nicholas Sparks' Safe Haven. Now I know in my last video, in my book video, I said that I wasn't going to be doing a book review unless I really liked the book, and I really wanted to do a book review about this book. This is such a good book. And that's not surprising. I mean, if you pick up a Nicholas Sparks book, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to be disappointed because most of his books are just such a page turner, and they're all just, the writing is really well, the story is really well, and the most important thing that I look for is that the story keeps you going. It's not like boring like with Stephenie Meyer of Twilight, where it's like a chapter and a half telling a freaking story. But anyways, this book is just such a good book. I am going to talk about the story, so if you haven't read this book, or if you're reading it right now, do not watch this video. So basically the story is that a girl named Katie, she moves to Southport, South Carolina, and she's escaping from an abusive past. Her husband was a cop. He used to beat her for stupid reasons, like most of them do, and so she's escaping from that. Now, once she moves to Southport, she gets a job, she gets a house, she falls in love with this guy named Alex, who is a single father of 2 kids. He's a widow, and she becomes friends with this woman that lives next door named Jo. Okay, so she's living her life, and so then her ex-husband, okay, so in the middle of the book you kind of hear about, because I was kind of curious as to, like, okay, where's the ex-husband? What did he do? I thought my phone was ringing. And so then you finally meet the character, and then you see how mean and evil of a person that he was. Now, the thing is that I think Kevin, they had a good time. I think Kevin and Katie, I think they did have good memories. It wasn't like all the time it was like prison. I think it was that he was just, he maybe had 2 personalities, or he was just, a drunk. But they did have a good marriage, they didn't have a good marriage. I mean, they had good times. So then you kind of see Kevin, and you realize how she escaped. And then you kind of see, after a while, here's the thing I liked about this book, is that after a while, once you meet Kevin, then every other chapter is like, one chapter is about Kevin, and then one chapter is about Katie. Okay, and then you get the sense of how Kevin found out where she was, which is kind of stupid on her part, but not really, because, well, she got a driver's license, and she used her old neighbor, who had a daughter that passed away, and she used her identity, and then he kind of figured it out. Thanks to a neighbor. And so she got a driver's license, and then once she got that driver's license, he came and he made their life pure hell. Like, literally. Everything that Alex had worked his life for, he had came and destroyed. He came down, he found Katie, and he was such a jealous person. Very, very jealous that he set because Alex had a general store, and he set it on fire. And the fire, I think, turned up to hit the house. I guess his house was right above the general store. And so Katie had to save the kids, and then Katie and Kevin ended up fighting, and long story short, Katie ended up shooting Kevin. Accidentally shooting Kevin, I guess. So that's pretty much the book. But the disappointment about the book was that the end of the story, I was really disappointed, because I was like, oh, I want Katie and Alex to end up together. I wanted them to get married, and I was thinking that, oh, now that Kevin's gone, we could do this, but it didn't end up that way, and I was really disappointed, because basically the Jo character, which was her next door neighbor, that was like her first friend when she moved to Southport, and they became really good friends, and they'd hang out and everything like that, and it turns out that Jo was a figment of her imagination, which I thought was really silly. And then it also Joe turned out to be Alex's late wife. So not only is she a figment of her imagination, but it's also her boyfriend's late wife. So it's like it's really kind of weird because that's really not Nicholas Sparks' writing. Um but other than that, I really, really, really recommend. I really recommend this book. It's such a page turner, especially once you get to Kevin. It's kind of slow in the beginning, but once you get to Kevin, you're gonna be like, oh my God, this character, and he's such a jackass. But the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was that I read reviews on Amazon.com, and they said that a lot of people said that this book has a lot like Sleeping with the Enemy, the movie with Julia Roberts. Great film. But it is, but then it isn't, because, and let me explain why. Sleeping with the Enemy, she was in a very abusive relationship. She faked her own death by drowning, and she faked her own death, so then she moved to, I think, Iowa, and then she started her own life. She found a boyfriend, who really wasn't that serious, by the way, and then her husband found her, and then she ended up killing her husband. Okay, well, this kind of has, okay, so this book sort of has the same similarity, except for the fact that the boyfriend wasn't a widow. The boyfriend wasn't, they weren't that, in this book they were more serious. And Julia Roberts' character in the movie was more like she was afraid to get involved. And she kind of did date because she liked him, but at the same time she was more afraid. In this book, she was afraid of dating, but then after a while she kind of got used to it. And this book, he has kids. And then in Sleeping with the Enemy, her mother, you never heard about her mother. Her mother, in Sleeping with the Enemy, the mother was in a nursing home. And Julia Roberts actually wants to go see him, but in this book you never heard about her parents. I think her parents died or something, but I kind of, now I kind of see the similarity with it, but not really. I guess it does, but there's always going to be that story about the wife that escapes the abusive husband, whatever. But yeah, so overall, I really loved the book, and if you haven't checked out a Nicholas Sparks book, I really would check one out because they're just really, really good. I'm not a fan of The Notebook. I know that everybody's like, oh my God, that's such. I really didn't like the book. I like the movie better. I do not like the movie or the book True Believer. It's sitting right back here. I just really don't like that book. And what's funny is that Nicholas Sparks actually did a sequel to that, which I have to read, and I just really didn't like that book. It's really weird, and he falls in love with this really nasty, the guy in the book falls in love with this really nasty character, and there's all these lights, and I don't know what the heck. It's a really, really strange book, but other than that, I've read all but, I think, I'm reading A Bend in the Road right now, and then I've got The Best of Me and At First Sight. I tried to read the one that he did with his brother, but I just really didn't get into it, but I may try to read it again, but that's later on down the road. So yeah, so that's my book review. Let me know what you guys think of this book if you have read it. I'm interested to see what everybody else says. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching my video, and have a good day. Bye!